Hello, everybody. This is Mrs. Han, and today we're going to read this short story together from Thief to Hero by Driti Veerapuram. You are welcome to read this on your own, but if you would like to read along with me, that is why we're making this video. From Thief to Hero. It was my first day back in school. It had been 3 years since I'd broken into Mr. Garcia's home to steal some of his money and precious things. I made it out with 8 flattering necklaces that looked great on me, but 2 nights later, the cops knocked on my door. I know it was stupid, but I've always been someone who looks out for myself first because who else will? And honestly, who needed that money more, Mr. Garcia or me? He already has so much. Now, 3 years later, I'm standing in front of St. Mary's High School. People here pointing at me and whispering behind their hands. Great, now I'm the girl who steals. Keeping my head down, I walked along and saw a couple of familiar faces and waved. Scoffing, they turned around awkwardly. I didn't blame them. 11th grade meant colleges to pick from, applications to fill out. Nobody wanted to be associated with the girl fresh out of juvie or juvenile hall. After a few minutes of searching for Mr. Ruiz's Algebra 2 class and finally finding it, I was already tired of high school. The stares, the laughs, the whispers, everything. Even the teachers ranted at me. I entered the classroom, ignoring the few stares that burned through the back of my head. Settling down into the unforgiving plastic chair, getting my math supplies, which were nothing but a pencil and eraser, I heard, excuse me, but you're in my seat. A well-dressed girl with perfectly straightened brunette hair stood towering above me. Sorry, I didn't know, I mumbled, but I made no move to get up. Could you, find a new one? She looked at me annoyed, like I was an insect. Why me? I asked. This was getting interesting. Maybe high school wasn't going to be as boring as I expected. What do you mean, why me? You're in my seat, so get out, she snapped with the whole class, now looking right at us. Caroline, why don't you go find a seat? Class is about to start, Mr. Ruiz said. She muttered something and stormed to another seat near the front of the room. You're so dead, she mouthed silently at me. Bite me, I mouthed back. Mr. Ruiz droned on about solving quadratic equations and how to graph them. The classes melted together, forming one giant, extremely boring blur in my mind. The high school itself wasn't too exciting. The walls were covered in cheap plaster and brightly colored inspirational posters that didn't really inspire anyone. The floor was smeared with skid marks and paint splatters, and the artificial lights made the musty, crowded hallways feel like an unfriendly hospital, only less sterile. When the bell finally rang, relief flooded through my body. One day done. Only over 100 more to go. I heard a bus honk and I laughed. The buses reminded me of the other big dumb prisoners in juvie, floating around yelling and following orders, doing the same thing over and over. I saw a bunch of kids sticking their faces out of the window, and one of them shouted the word thief in my direction. Thank God I was walking home. Spotting Caroline right across the street from me, I turned away and started to head home. That girl was so annoying. Honk, another bus left. Turning around at the noise, I saw a bus moving, and I noticed that Caroline was fluffing up her hair as she walked across the street, her concentration fully on the mirror in her hand. Dropping my bag, I ran, feet pounding on the pavement. Grabbing onto her, I pushed us both out of the bus's way and collapsed onto the hard ground. Ah, Caroline yelled. Rolling onto my back, I let go a big breath. Caroline was probably going to tell everyone how stalker-like I was now. That she's never heard of coincidence. She looked at me as I started brushing the dirt off my pants. You saved me. My hands froze. Turning away, I half nodded and then headed home, feeling confused. The next day at school, the pointing didn't stop, the whispering didn't stop, and the staring definitely didn't stop. The first half of the day blurred together just like it had the day before. 32, 17, 4, I repeated in my head as I tried to open my locker. Jammed. Stupid thing. After kicking it for a full minute, I finally opened it successfully. Grabbing my lunch money, I rushed to the cafeteria. When I entered the room, all of the girls sitting at Caroline's table stopped talking. Slowly, a few of them rose and began to clap. Soon, a few more tables joined in. They were applauding me. Caroline walked up. You saved my life, and everyone saw it. Nobody's going to give you a hard time now. You're not a thief anymore. You're a hero. I couldn't believe the second chance I'd been given. Maybe high school wouldn't be so bad after all. And maybe it does pay off to care for more than just myself.